Welcome back, YouTube, to another champion concept video. Today I am going to be introducing you to Veyga, the Apprentice of the Frost. If you guys like these videos, please like and subscribe to the channel, as well as leave a comment down below to let me know what you think of this champion, or if you have any really cool ideas for yourself. So we'll get right into the video. So with Veyga, a funny story. I created this champion about 2 years ago, and the whole concept was being a marksman who was built around ability power. And I saw Kai'Sa come out, and I kind of looked at myself, and it was very similar to what I designed for Veyga. So I had to completely scrap the champion and come up with a different concept, but still keeping the core of ability-based marksman. And I think I did a really good job with that, and you guys can let me know here. We're going to hop into her passive, which is cryogenetic advancements. This actually has two different parts. So the first part is basic attacking a target champion solely stacks cryo. After 4 basic attacks, this will apply a stack of cryo to that enemy champion. Stacks of cryo will magnify ability damage as they are stacked on top of this champion. They do not go away. I believe kind of the idea that I had was after an ability was used, it will start to run down through the stacks of cryo. Or you could also do this, every ability will use a stack of cryo, and then it would just continue to go down. You can actually stack this up to 20 times, and kind of how the damage modifier would go would be about 0.5 plus 1.5 to 4.5% of the AP ratio of how much ability power that Veyga does have at that particular time. And that's for each stack. And one ability will use 1 stack. I think that would make the most sense. You guys can let me know what you guys think. However, if Veyga is to be taken down, all enemy champions who either the person who killed her or anyone who assists on these kills will have all of their cryo stacks removed. So think of it as kind of a backwards Draven passive in a way. This gives her a lot of, this gives her opponents a lot of time to play around her, especially if she has low stacks. That means she's not going to be doing nearly as much damage. And for Veyga, this means that her life is more important than really anything else, because if she dies, she loses all these stacks and then kind of crashes down, has to build back up again. Also, as I kind of already pointed out, Veyga's basic attacks are all converted into magic damage. Everything in her kit is magic damage. 80 items actually are also converted partially into ability power, and I put down here about 60% of the 80 stats will be converted to ability power. So if they build let's say they build an item that has 100 AD, they will get 60 of that AD converted into ability power. It's so that you can, if you wanted to build, like, let's say crit, or you wanted to build, Bloodthirster or something like that, you're still going to get the effects from it. And then all of that damage is just going to be converted over to ability power, so you're not going to be getting as much damage. Your power spikes will be very, very weak building this. But I think somebody would be able to find a very creative way to maybe put in 1 or 2 AD items into her kit to give her some different effects, whether it's crit chance, armor pen, something in there that would give her a different type of feel, kind of how Kai'Sa does with building Death Cap, Hourglass, Nashers, and Storm Razors, or that's what she used to build. So just giving her some different options when it comes to being a marksman in the bot lane. Her first ability is Splintered Icicles. You guys can see the cooldown there. Range is 575, and this has a secondary range on it as well, which we'll get into. So this ability is a skill shot. Fires a cryo cell in target direction, dealing magic damage. Upon reaching end of the skill shot, the cryo cell will explode, launching 4 freezing splinters backwards from its initial point. So wherever this ability stops its movement forward, whichever it hits an enemy champion, hits a wall, or just reaches the end of its skill shot, it will shoot back 4 freezing splinters, and each one of these splinters will damage and slow targets for 1.5 seconds. This ability also will consume a cryo stack, dealing bonus magic damage. And also wrote on here, targets who are hit with 2 or more splinters will not have the slow effect stacked. So if you get hit with 1 splinter or 3 splinters, it's just going to do extra damage. It's not going to necessarily slow you more. I think this is a very good poke ability. As you'll see with the rest of her kit, this is kind of her main ability for poke and damage outside of her normal auto attacks. And we'll get into her second ability here, which is Snow Slide. This is a directional movement ability. Veyga slides across the ground using her rifle to create a frozen surface below her. This frozen surface allows Veyga to move faster and further across it, while enemy minions and champions have reduced movement speed while walking over the frozen surface. About 15 to 20% movement speed is what I was thinking. The frozen paths work similar to barred portals, and Veyga cannot move directionally once using a path. She has to finish the entire movement from point A to point B, and Snow Slide holds up to 3 max charges, with each lasting from 5 to 9 seconds respectively with your level. So this ability here has a few different little parts to it. First thing, the way that this ability would be used, very similar to Victor's Death Ray. How it's kind of a directional ability. You use it, that area becomes, damaged. Kind of same thing with Veyga. The direction she will shoot that area, it will become frozen, and then she can move across it. This is a very, very unique ability, I feel, because it has multiple uses. One, it could be used to get away from a gank. It could be to get away from a bad situation. It could be to enter a situation. This also could be used as a kiting, or not as a kiting, as a zoning mechanism. So if your team's taking Dragon, if your team's taking Baron, if they're taking a turret, and you're able to throw down 2 or 3 of these frozen surfaces in front of an enemy, they can't really walk over it because they're just going to be slowed the whole time. So most targets are just going to let that go back up, and this just gives her some very unique both out of lane and in lane control with being able to use these. Now, as I said before, these work very similar to barred portals. So if she starts moving across one of these, she has to continue moving across it until it's at the very end. I did not add this on here, and I was thinking about this as I was making the video about using Veyga. So basically, when she uses this frozen surface, is she or is she not able to still auto attack? I would say yes. I think that would be very, very cool if she's able to auto attack while moving across this still. That's obviously just based on her attack speed and how far these actual snow slides would be. But yeah, that was just a thought that I was having as I was reading this. I was thinking maybe having her be able to auto attack as well moving across this. So that's something we can revisit in the future. But like I said, a very interesting ability. Her third ability is called Frostbite. So Veyga will jump backwards, leaving a frozen shell of herself behind, marking the next enemy champion that it passes through. This target is slowed for 1.5 seconds until the target is in a completely frozen stasis for an additional 3 seconds. So it slows for 1.5, builds up, and then it will drop down, freeze this target completely for 3 seconds. I may move that down to 1.5 or 2. I feel like 4.5 seconds of CC is pretty crazy for an ability that's not an ultimate, or it doesn't have to stack. Now, the one thing about this ability is it's used very similar to Caitlyn's E. So it will push Veyga back, and then that target would have to be charging them from the front, and have to come in contact with this frozen shell. I got the idea from playing Mortal Kombat and seeing, Sub-Zero have a similar move. That move just always stuck in my head, and I felt like it'd be really cool to put into League of Legends. During the stasis, Veyga could cast her Q to break the stasis early, granting bonus magic penetration for her damage, as well as consuming more magic, as well as consuming cryo stacks for bonus magic damage. So this works with her Q as being her main way to really demolish a target, being able to freeze them and then use her Q to then goes into a slow, into a root stun, into burst of damage, and then to another slow. Lots of playmaking potential with this ability, and this is kind of her 1-2 combo. This is her way to really deal a lot of damage to people outside of just using her normal Q or using auto attacks. Is going to be to use these 2 abilities in sync. Very easy to dodge, I feel, though, for champions who have a lot of movement ability, Master Yi, Aurelia. But for champions, let's say Vi or Malphite, who, if they're able to time this and freeze them, they will go through with the rest of their abilities. So Vi ult. Vi's ult will go completely through this ability, but once she lands, Vi would freeze. Same thing with Malphite. If Malphite were to ult through one of these frozen shells, The damage would go through, the knockup would go through, but then Malphite would be frozen. And when you are frozen in this stasis ability, you can't use abilities, you can't flash, you're basically suppressed. Think of it that way. That's a very, very good way of thinking about it. So just as a suppression, you can't really do anything until the actual ability is done, or you have QSS. And the last ability, which I was very excited about this ability, is Maelstrom Grenade. This is Veyga's ult. She will throw one of her untested Maelstrom grenades in target location. After 1.5 seconds, the grenade will trigger a large frozen AoE effect, slowing all targets caught inside. Think of kind of Nunu ult in a way. If caught inside longer than 3 consistent seconds, targets will begin to freeze into stasis. Once a target is unfrozen, however, the remaining time the target is spent inside of the blast zone, quote unquote, they will be slowed in. They will continue stacking cryo per second, and the blast zone lasts 9 to 12 seconds as you level up. So you think first time ult, you know, like level 1 ult, level 6 ult, you shoot this down, doesn't do any damage, but it will slowly start to slow targets and then freeze them as they are inside of this. So now you're able to stack multiple frozen suppression effects on multiple targets. You know, being able to use your Q, which would be on a very low cooldown at this time. And then also, once they're unfrozen, they're then slowed inside of this zone as well, and then they're going to continue stacking cryo stacks. This is just a very good way, especially late game. You throw this down, it's going to clear out an entire area, because they're either going to they're all going to be frozen, or they're all going to be dealt a lot of damage. Very good playmaking potential. I think her biggest weak points as a champion would be in lane, dealing with very aggressive bot lanes. When I mean very, very aggressive bot lanes, I mean like Lucian and like a Thresh. Draven, not so much, but Ezreal possibly. You know, Vayne, champions who have movement abilities and who can get up really, really close and deal a lot of damage, I think she would struggle with. I think she also would struggle against really, really long range opponents. So Caitlyn, Ashe would be a little difficult. I think champions like Draven, I think champions like Misfortune, Twitch, I think she would do very well into. And I guess it really depends on how you would build her, as opposed, you know, when playing against those counter matchups, how she would do. I think the biggest area of where Veyga really shines is going to be in that mid game to late game, when she's using her ultimate to zone, when she's using, you know, when she catches somebody with Frozen Shell, when she's using her Snow Slide ability to zone targets off. Lots of playmaking potential for a marksman, which we haven't really seen too much of. So let me know what you guys think. This is the first video that I've made in about 2 months, just with a bunch of stuff going on, but I'm going to be getting back into making one of these champion videos at least once a week. And let me know what you guys think in the comments, and I will see you guys in the next video.